Billionaire discovered a touching secret in a little girl's empty lunchbox. What unfolded was Nathan Hale stood rigid against the backdrop of the elementary school playground, tension coiling tight within him. Once a magnetic innovator, now a reluctant tech billionaire, he scanned the eager, youthful faces around him. Here they were, a generation brimming with ideas that felt light years ahead of his own. Each moment spent among these young prodigies grew heavier on his chest, a stark reminder of his fading relevance in a world that spun faster than he could compute. At 45, he felt like a relic. He hadn't intended to fall so far from his first principles. They had once driven him with an insatiable passion to uplift the underprivileged, to create products accessible to all. Yet, somewhere along the path of meteoric success, the mission had become entangled in a web of fortune and disconnect. Gnarled guilt twisted in his gut as he overheard two mothers lamenting about their struggles just a few yards away. The weight of his achievements stood in stark contrast to their realities. As soft laughter echoed around him, a glint caught his eye. A dilapidated lunchbox sat abandoned on a painted wooden bench, its colorful facade peeling. Driven by an impulse he couldn't quite place, he approached. A crumpled note peeked out from the lid. Nathan lifted it gently, the words "Lily" and "dreaming of science" etched in whimsical handwriting. Before he could ponder its implications, a shy voice spoke from behind. "That's mine," said a small girl, crimson-faced, wearing oversized glasses that magnified her stormy blue eyes. Lily. Her unassuming stature belied her wild ideas, but as Nathan listened, the story of her reality spilled forth. She often went hungry, her family struggling under a weight he had long forgotten in his world of privilege. He was flung into an inner turmoil. Initially, he felt the urgency to help. But as palpable tension pushed against the possibility of altruism, his mind raced with questions about acceptance and guilt. Could he even connect with someone like her? Their worlds were so starkly different, his lined with pristine boardrooms, hers with hunger and hardship. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days turned into weeks as Nathan grappled with Lily's story. He devised plans for financial support, sprouting in him an illusion of purpose. Yet, skepticism from community leaders greeted him like a forecast of rain on a sunny day. "You don't understand," they derided. "Your help deepens the divides." Each rejection cut deeper, a mirror reflecting his affluent life, a life that had skewed the very ideals he wished to embody. As winter encroached, a harrowing sense of despair filled the air. At a school conference, with his heart racing, he watched Lily rise before the crowd, a brilliant burst of creativity dimmed by fear. She poured out dreams of innovations while Nathan felt an eerie sense of isolation surround him. The capacity to inspire felt unavailable to him, a distant mirage. In that pivotal moment, humanity surged through him but collided with the realization of how detached he truly was from the struggle right in front of him. Then came an unexpected confrontation with Lily's parents, learning of his financial support plans. Anguish twisted in his stomach as their anger washed over him. Accusations of entitlement pierced his defenses, forcing him to confront his motivations. The awkwardness of affluence weighed heavy in the air, leaving him to wonder, how could he truly connect without the barricade of wealth? Shadowing every interaction. As he prepared to speak during a town hall meeting that evening, Nathan felt urgency mixed with dread coalesce within him. Would he find a way to bridge this vast chasm, a gap he once intended to reduce? The unresolved tension enveloped him, the sweat on his brow betraying the inner tumult. Would he ever prove that success could cultivate connections instead of division? The air crackled with anticipation as he prepared to address the gathering, his heart pounding against the unraveling fabric of his convictions. Uncertainty loomed large, and with it, an eerie void awaited his next move. As Nathan stepped onto the stage, the bright lights washed over him like an oppressive blanket, and the murmurs of the audience transformed into a distant buzz. The enormity of the moment crystallized with each step he took toward the podium. Panic surged through him, he desperately sought the right words to bridge the vast divide between his world and Lily's. Even in this moment, surrounded by faces etched with skepticism, he felt a surge of deep introspection. "Good evening," he began, his voice faltering but steadying as he scanned the crowd. He fought to maintain eye contact, hoping to connect, to convey more than mere statistics about financial aid and tech solutions. "I stand here today not as a billionaire, but as a man grappling with an unsettling realization." The room fell silent, his vulnerability hanging in the air. But a flicker of doubt nagged at him. Would they hear him? Would his position render his sincerity muted? He pressed on. "I've spent years developing technologies to change lives, but in doing so, I lost sight of truly understanding those lives I intended to impact." As he poured out his thoughts, Nathan found himself confronting his own fears, the reasons behind his previous failures. Each word he spoke felt like peeling back layers of his identity, revealing a man who had once aspired to empower the underserved, only to become ensnared by his own success. He spoke of Lily, the girl who had unwittingly thrust him back into a reality he had long dismissed. Lily dreams of science, but dreams are furious flames that get extinguished under the weight of hunger, he declared, feeling his own words etch into the mind surrounding him. "I have lived so far removed from that reality, a castle built on privilege. I have much to atone for." A murmur rippled through the crowd, and he took a deep breath. Uncertainty gripped him as he faced the layers of resentment woven into the fabric of the audience. "I admit I don't know the best way to help, but I want to learn from you. I stand here, willing to listen." At that moment, Nathan felt a shift among the audience. Had he finally pierced through the armor of anger and hostility? But just as he began to taste acceptance, a voice called out from the back. "And why should we trust you? Money doesn't change hearts." The words rang out, as sharp as a dagger, cutting through the tentative atmosphere he worked to create. Challenged, Nathan felt an ancient instinct to retreat into his wealth and power, to silence dissent with the authority of his title. But this wasn't a business negotiation, it was a plea for connection. "I can't promise you that my past decisions can be undone, nor can I erase my privilege. What I can promise is that I will work to understand." The response, however, was mixed. Some nodded cautiously, while others exchanged skeptical glances, their resistance palpable. Each dissenting breath clutched at Nathan's resolve, sparking a tempest of desperation within him. He felt the weight of expectation, his own and theirs, to produce not just promises, but actions. "I'm willing to fund initiatives, but first, I need your guidance. I need to understand your realities and aspirations firsthand." The thrust of sincerity propelled forward, anguish turned to determination as Nathan imagined tangible changes, but a voice of doubt whispered in his mind. What if he remained just another voice drowned out by layers of misunderstanding? Yet, the courage to embrace vulnerability was surging to the forefront of his consciousness. He leaned into it. "I don't wish to change the narrative based on my assumptions, I need to engage in this journey with you on the ground, in Lily's world." With that proclamation, he opened the floor to discussions, realizing this might be the beginning of his redemption. This pivot could be the first step toward rebuilding trust, toward innovation that uplifted rather than divided. As night enveloped the gathering, Nathan felt the air shift, the palpable tension transforming into a budding hope. However, he couldn't ignore the looming question: could he truly learn from them, or had he already set himself on a path of failure to connect? As he left the podium, adrenaline coursing like wildfire through his veins, he was suddenly consumed by a startling realization: to genuinely connect, he would have to confront not just external barriers but the very ideologies that had boxed him in for too long. Would he dare to dismantle his own constructs as he moved deeper into Lily's world? The answer hung precariously before him, awaiting the next turn in his journey. The conference room buzzed with muted conversations, but Nathan felt like he stood at the edge of a vast chasm, teetering on the threshold of an uncertain future. As he retreated to a corner, the echo of his words lingered in his mind, fraying as they danced with the skepticism he had faced. Had he genuinely opened a dialogue, or merely passed an unconvincing hat around? Moments later, he was approached by a woman in the audience, her posture straight yet relaxed. Her name tag read Eva, and her eyes bore the weight of lived experience. "I appreciated your honesty," she began, her voice steady yet imbued with caution. "But honesty isn't enough. You've spent years speaking from privilege. It's time to put in the work." Her words struck him like a jolt of electricity. He had thought, perhaps naively, that a well-articulated speech would suffice. "I'm willing to do that," he replied, feeling a determination swell within him. "What does that work look like?" Eva regarded him for a long moment, assessing the man before her. "Understand that listening isn't passive. It's about engaging fully, stepping into lives you don't know. Show us you're with us in our fight for our own places in this world, not just saving us." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Nathan grappling with her challenge. In the following days, Nathan took her words to heart. The old comforts of wealth and corporate power, the tools he once used to navigate problems, suddenly felt inadequate. He spent hours researching community programs, initiatives surrounding education, and the barriers that others faced. As he delved deeper, he began scheduling meetings not with other entrepreneurs or stakeholders, but with teachers, parents from underfunded schools, and activists who fought for proper resources. Each meeting brought new layers of insight, brutal realities he had previously ignored. He faced the hard truth of inadequacies without a filter. One afternoon, he sat down with a teacher named Margot who spoke with such passion about her work. She highlighted the disparities in educational funding, sharing stories of her students improvising tools for learning that they couldn't afford. "You can't just throw money at a problem, Nathan," she insisted, her voice trembling with originality in its urgency. "You have to listen to our voice as actual stakeholders, not just the spreadsheet metrics or focus groups." Each interaction cut deeper than the last. With every new story, Nathan's empathetic understanding began to take root. He realized that to truly connect, he had to strip away preconceived notions of solutions that had served him in his world but failed to resonate in theirs. Days turned into weeks. Nathan found himself visiting these schools, sitting in classrooms where children learned in environments lacking adequate resources. He fascinated over their resilience, their thirst for knowledge overshadowed by trepidations about their futures. Through their experiences, fragments of who he thought he was began to dissolve. It wasn't just about funding or technology, but rather the empowerment of individuals through understanding. It dawned on him that true innovation lay in collective voice, unfiltered experiences that couldn't be solved with cold equations. He could no longer see the world as delineated by wealth, instead, he moved through it as a participant in human narratives. Yet, with every gained insight came a nagging sensation of urgency. He was changing, but so too was the environment around him. Tension amassed like a gathering storm, a conflict looming on the horizon battling old ideologies or forging new alliances. Those he wished to support might not readily accept him, even with this newfound awareness. Could he break through the accumulated sense of betrayal and disillusionment as he embarked on this multifaceted journey? As he prepared to attend the next community meeting, a disturbing unease settled in his gut. The question loomed: had the bridge he was building through sincerity and hard work been crafted too late? The stakes were higher than ever, as he knew confronting a community's bitterness wouldn't be a smooth transition. In the echo of a new challenge, Nathan wondered, was he prepared to stand before them, vulnerable yet resolute, even if the backlash was severe? The room pulsated with an undercurrent of tension as Nathan approached the community meeting, each step heavy with his doubts. His heart raced at the thought of facing the very people he had spent weeks trying to understand. Would they recognize his efforts or see through them as hollow gestures? Taking his seat, he glanced around at the other attendees. Their expressions ranged from skepticism to apprehension, mirroring his inner turmoil. Eva was there, seated at the front, her gaze steady and unwavering. Nathan felt a knot in his stomach tighten. He couldn't help but wonder if she would sense his uncertainty and judge him for it. As the meeting commenced, he listened intently, absorbing stories of struggle and resilience. A father spoke of his daughter, Ellie, who had transferred schools several times due to unstable housing. Her education hung in the balance, yet the love in his voice flooded the room with warmth. "She wants to be a scientist," he said, pride illuminating his features. "But how can she dream when her world is in chaos?" The stories broke through his protection, cracking the walls he had built around himself. Each narrative laid bare the raw realities these families faced, intertwined with dreams that felt painfully distant. Nathan felt a growing responsibility to act, but how to balance his position of privilege with these new revelations? It weighed heavily on him. When it was his turn to speak, Nathan felt the weight of the room's expectation. He drew in a deep breath and began, his voice surprisingly firm. "I want to be part of this community," he declared. "But I know that my past doesn't qualify me to lead or solve problems for you. I'm here to learn, to listen, to understand the challenges you face." Some faces softened at his words, but others remained guarded. Eva's expression remained inscrutable. Did she believe him? After a brief moment of silence, the next speaker, a woman named Teresa, stood up, her voice steady but laced with a caustic edge. "Why would we want the help from someone who has never walked a mile in our shoes?" she challenged, her eyes piercing through him. Her words ignited a fire of recognition in Nathan. He had spent years operating from his privilege, wrapped in a cocoon where decisions came easy and outcomes were predictable. He felt the injustice sweep over him. "I can't change the choices I've made before," he admitted, vulnerability spilling from his lips. "But I can commit to being part of a solution that includes your voices, your stories." The room remained tense, yet in that moment, Nathan felt a shred of resolve ignite within him. He recognized that opening himself to this community meant more than just offering resources. It was about sharing power, equity, and actively participating in a dialogue where he was but a piece of the puzzle. Time passed and the conversation unfolded, drifting toward a plethora of issues that widened Nathan's perspective even further. He truly began to see the labyrinth of systemic barriers, navigating not just the educational landscape but also the health and economic disparities. Each comment added a layer to his understanding, and with every response to the group's questions, Nathan grasped not only their needs but the depth behind them. But just as he felt a flicker of hope ignite, the thoughts that had haunted him all week surged forward again. Was he really making inroads or simply performing in a play whose script had been written long before he entered the stage? As the meeting drew to a close, Nathan left with a resolution to bridge the gap between what he wanted to contribute and the tangible steps he needed to take to foster genuine connections. Yet he felt the walls were not only complex but thickening, the resistance palpable. As he stepped outside into the twilight, the crisp air felt rejuvenating yet ominous. He had managed to break through one layer, but another loomed ahead. Would they ultimately view him as an ally or an outsider? The haunting whispers of uncertainty tugged at his mind. Suddenly, Nathan found himself staring at that empty lunchbox. Its presence seemed a metaphor for aspirations unfulfilled and questions unanswered. What hidden truths lay behind it? The nagging curiosity twisted inside him, igniting a fire he couldn't ignore. He knew he had more to uncover, not just about the community but about himself. It was a moment that demanded action. He understood then that while bridges could be mended, revelations could also surface, and some truths could be more unsettling than anticipated. Was he prepared to face the deeper complexity of this new path? Nathan's resolve solidified as he strode away from the community meeting, yet an unsettling edginess clawed at him beneath that determination. He had opened a door into a realm that felt both unfamiliar and necessary. Each step echoed with the weight of his newfound awareness. He had spent years in environments sprinkled with privilege, where his voice carried influence while others fought to be heard. Now, he faced an urgent reckoning: how to turn his understanding into impactful action. Returning to his cramped office space, Nathan slumped into the chair behind his desk, the empty lunchbox still heavy in his mind. Its stark insignificance contrasted with the hopes it symbolized. Was he a catalyst for change, or merely another voice in a sea of noise? He had moved through life like an observer, but now he recognized a rising need to forge relationships stitched together by trust and vulnerability. Late into the night, the glow of the computer screen illuminated a scattered array of tabs as he researched nonprofit organizations, programs geared toward education, and social justice movements. He pored over each website with a frenetic energy. He drafted emails to organizations that seemed to resonate with the mission he had begun to craft in his mind, one where education didn't hinge on demographic fate, where every child could dream grandly, and where he could slide from being just another voice to becoming a facilitator of change. Yet, each email he crafted was tinged with doubt. Were these organizations truly effective, or were they just piecemeal solutions to a systemic issue? Would he be stepping into a situation where his presence would be perceived as another layer of complicity, or could he bring something valuable to the table? Navigating these intricacies felt maddening, as if he were grasping at elusive currents refusing to steady. Confronted with an impending obligation, the desire to prove he belonged, to show he was more than a passing breeze in their lives, he decided he needed a mentor. Someone with a grounding presence, someone who had mismatched struggles with triumphs, whose voice could guide him through the labyrinth he found himself in. But who? His thoughts spiraled back to Eva, whose gaze bore a depth he had sensed but hadn't yet understood. In the days that followed, Nathan found himself drawn to the community center more frequently. Each visit was illuminated with learning as sessions unfolded, revealing layers of history and layers of hurt. Unraveling the threads of each connection provided glimpses into the human experience that transcended statistics and narratives often shared in corporate boardrooms. But those interactions were not without complications. With each story, Nathan felt raw sensitivities emerge, urging him to confront his privileges directly. Would he ever be welcomed on the same strata where heaviness colored every moment? One afternoon, Nathan was pleasantly surprised when Eva approached him during a break. Her steadfast nature had intrigued him, but it was a flicker of vulnerability in her expression that compelled him to engage. He seized the chance. "I want to understand better," he said, his voice steady. "Would you be willing to share your story with me?" Her eyes reflected surprise, but within seconds, it yielded to contemplation. "What do you think you'll gain from it?" she asked, skepticism entwined with curiosity. "I think," Nathan paused, searching for honesty, "that the more I learn, the less blind I can be. I want to contribute meaningfully, but that means grappling with my understanding of this world." Eva studied him intently, then nodded slowly. "We'll see if you're ready for where those truths may lead," she replied, the challenge evident in her tone. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Nathan felt a strange mixture of fear and anticipation swelling within him. He was standing at the precipice, confronted with the opportunity to exchange safety for authenticity. Would he have the courage to embrace the insights Eva might share, or would he retreat into the comfort of ignorance? As he left the community center that evening, his steps felt lighter despite the plethora of questions swarming his mind. Would he be able to rise to meet the difficulties that lay ahead? Nathan sensed the complexity of this journey was only beginning, and as the city lights shimmered in the distance, he mused about the truth lurking within the empty lunchbox. Just then, his phone buzzed with an unexpected message from Teresa, echoing his thoughts, "We need to talk." Would this be an opportunity for clarity or yet another confrontation? Nathan stared at his phone, the message from Teresa hanging in the air like a cloud of uncertainty. The weight of that other life he had temporarily set aside pressed down on him, blending with the rising curiosity that had taken root since he began his deeper quest for meaning. He had distanced himself from Teresa, with their contentious differences turning into painful silences. Yet here she was, beckoning him back, insisting he re-engage with the fragments of their collective history. He responded with a simple, "When and where?" The question felt like a portal, a step back into a world he felt increasingly disconnected from. As he navigated the haze of emotions, he recalled their passionate debates, the sparks igniting between them about social justice and responsibility, life and privilege. But those discussions had shifted him, and now he wasn't entirely sure where he stood. That morning, he arrived at the familiar cafe, the solace of its aromas mingling with his unease. The tables were filled with faces, familiar and foreign, each wrapped in their own web of stories. He wondered what Teresa would say if she knew the shift he had begun to undergo, how he had ventured into spaces he had once overlooked. Would she listen with an open heart or dismiss him as a pretender? As soon as he spotted her, seated at their usual booth, the knot in his stomach tightened. Teresa's brow furrowed, indicating a serious demeanor. He wondered if she could feel the weight of his change, a transformation that had started quietly but relentlessly grew more vivid. "Thanks for meeting," he began, his voice tentative, searching. Cutting to the chase, she replied, her tone direct. "I hear you've been busy trying to save the world." He chuckled weakly, reminded of their playful banter that had now turned abrasive. "I'm not saving anything, just trying to find where I fit." "Fit? Or feel better about your own privilege? What is your goal here? Validation?" Her eyes sparkled with both challenge and concern. Instinctively, Nathan bristled. Her words burrowed into him. The notion that he might be in pursuit of validation ignited defenses he hadn't anticipated. "I'm not looking for validation," he insisted, striving for steadiness. "I want to understand and contribute, not just sit comfortably on the sidelines." Her expression softened slightly, but the skepticism remained. "Understanding? It sounds noble, but there's a fine line between empathy and appropriation, Nathan. Be careful." The discussion spiraled, weighty with shared history that danced around their contrasting perspectives. As Nathan articulated his newfound passion for social equity, transitional echoes of the world he had known interlaced with the emerging narratives of lives he had previously ignored. He spoke of the community visits, the complex histories, and Eva's invitation for deeper truths. Yet, in the back of his mind, he felt another shadow creeping in: self-doubt. He struggled internally with the realization that he could easily slip back into complacency, no more than a visitor echoing strong sentiments without making real commitments. "Do you think it's possible," he ventured, "to genuinely know the struggles of others while sitting in my chair, in my world?" "I hope you do," Teresa replied quietly, "but it requires more than the occasional email and conversation. You must forge connections that challenge you, let your comfort dissolve, and hold space for discomfort." Her words struck him like a bell tolling in the silence. His journey was far from just acquiring understanding but about building genuine relationships that added voices, not drowned them. As they settled into a ruminative silence, Nathan peered inside, grappling with the unfolding image of who he was becoming. His inner dialogue churned, considering the possibility of stepping into mistrust and fear of exposure, but also the enlightening prospect of transformation that lay ahead. Realizing he had barely begun to scratch the surface, Nathan pondered whether his desire to engage sincerely with others could overcome the fear of being an imposter. At that moment, he made an internal promise to seek out authenticity and connection, no matter how tumultuous the path ahead might be. As they parted ways, Nathan felt a renewed determination echoing within him. Underneath the complexities, the conversations with Eva and Teresa were repositioning him in a maze where clarity was elusive, yet the opportunity for growth shimmered enticingly. He knew he needed guidance, acceptance, and perhaps a straightforward challenge to push him further. And just as he turned to catch one last glimpse of Teresa's retreating figure, a message pinged on his phone, this time from Eva. "I have something important to discuss. Can you meet today?" Nathan's heart raced. Today, he would confront more than just dialogue, he would unearth the real work awaiting him, and those complex truths could very well reshape him once again. Nathan hurriedly made his way to the park where he had arranged to meet Eva. His pulse quickened at the thought of what she might reveal. Would it be another opportunity to immerse himself in understanding, or perhaps a challenge to face the realities of his own worldview? Arriving at the park, he took a moment to steady his thoughts, letting the vibrant hues of the autumn leaves ground him in the present. Each falling leaf felt like a harbinger of change, echoing his own internal transformations. Today, he needed to confront the truths he had begun to piece together: the fragile nature of authenticity and the necessity of deepening connections. He spotted Eva sitting on a bench, her hands resting on a canvas bag filled with documents. She looked up and smiled, an expression that radiated warm sincerity, but a flicker of concern danced in her eyes. Nathan approached, drawn into the gravity of her presence. "Thanks for meeting me, Eva," he said, taking a seat beside her. "I wanted to talk about something important, the project we discussed last time. It's richer than I initially said, and I think it might resonate with you," she began, her tone blending enthusiasm with caution. "Tell me more," he prompted, feeling his interest piqued. "Just last week, I visited a local school. They're facing tremendous challenges, especially as the community navigates economic hardships. The stories I heard pierced my heart. A little girl, Sarah, opened up about her hunger. Her lunch today was just an empty bag," Eva explained, her voice faltering slightly as she recollected the moment. "It made me realize we're focused on big solutions, but sometimes change starts with small moments of connection." The image of a child struggling stirred something deep within Nathan. He grappled with the pathos of Eva's experience, envisioning her sitting with Sarah. It mirrored his encounter with Teresa, where ideals clashed with reality, evoking an urgency to act. "What do you want to do?" he asked. "I want to propose engaging with this school, creating a partnership that not only addresses hunger but also cultivates empathy and understanding in older students. It's not just about solving a problem, it's about building relationships," she said, her passion igniting the air between them. "Relationships," he echoed, the weight of the word settling over him. This was precisely what Teresa had urged him toward. He felt the familiar tension of insecurity creep in. Was he capable of assuming such responsibility? Could he add value without overstepping? "You seem hesitant. This isn't about you being the hero." Eva watched him intently, sensing the turmoil within him. "This is a partnership. Your insights, your experiences, they matter, but only if you step outside your comfort zone." He nodded slowly, digesting her words. He had been seeking these kinds of challenges, moments that would push his boundaries and demand authenticity. "I want to be part of this, but I worry it's too big. What if I fail?" Failure isn't the enemy, apathy is. What you learn along the way matters more than perfection. Just being there makes a difference. "You're not alone in this," she reassured him. It was a turning point. Nathan felt a surge of determination. He envisioned visiting the school, connecting with Sarah and her peers, and allowing their experiences to redefine his perceptions. "Okay, let us do it. I want to engage not just as a participant but as someone genuinely committed to impacting lives." As they spoke, Nathan's self-doubt began to dissipate, replaced by a growing clarity. He could reshape his approach to empathy, parsing through the inherent complexities while achieving personal growth. Creating genuine connections could become his North Star. Yet, even as resolutions took shape, a nagging question lingered: was he prepared for the honesty and vulnerability these engagements would demand of him? As the meeting concluded, levels of anticipation mingled with uncertainty in Nathan's gut. Just then, his phone vibrated. An unrecognized number blinked on the screen. The message simply read, "I know what you're after. We need to talk." Chills coursed through him. What revelation lay hidden in that cryptic invitation, and how would it challenge the path he had just chosen? Nathan stared at his phone, the words on the screen clinging relentlessly to his mind. He felt an unsettling mix of intrigue and dread. He glanced up at Eva, who was now rifling through her bag for a notebook, a hint of oblivion clouding her focus on his crisis. "Who was that?" she asked, glancing at the device in his hand. "A message from someone I don't recognize. It just says, 'I know what you're after.'" "We need to talk," he confessed, his mind racing through various scenarios. Was it a twist of fate or a convergence of paths he had yet to decipher? "Does it concern the project?" she probed, sensing the agitation in his voice. "I don't know," he said, shaking his head. "It feels personal. Like someone knows things about me that I haven't even confronted myself." The creeping specter of doubt took hold again. Could it be someone from his past? Or worse, someone who had connections to the very inadequacies he was trying to escape? As Eva encouraged him to focus on the task ahead connecting with the school, Nathan's mind wandered to the implications of the message. He felt the urge to dismiss it, to focus on the immediate issues of hunger, despair, and the connection he longed to foster. Yet, he couldn't shake the feeling that this unknown communication had the power to upend everything. "I'll call you later about the details, okay?" he told Eva, forcing a smile. He needed to separate the two threads of his life: his aspirations for the project and the sudden intricacies of an enigmatic message. But as he left the park, a question loomed larger: could he really confront what lay ahead when parts of his past were tied to his present ambitions? The following days slipped by, with Nathan's focus shifting between planning the initiative for the school and resisting the pull of the text message. Each time he reached for his phone, a bead of anxious sweat formed on his brow. Revisions to his lesson plan were met with fleeting moments of clarity followed by spirals of unresolved conflict. Was he prepared to endorse such vulnerability, not just with the students, but within himself? Eva continued to bring her enthusiasm to the conversations they shared, illuminating the profound impact small gestures of understanding could create. The stories she relayed about the children sparked determination in him, igniting a flame where doubt had once flickered quietly. The thought of facing Sarah, of bridging the gap between their different worlds, was electrifying. Yet, there was a fissure in Nathan's resolve, one that reverberated through every conversation about the project. He had readied himself to put his best foot forward, but his mind whispered questions of adequacy. What if the hidden truths from his past overshadowed this newfound calling? What if this venture to cultivate relationships became tainted by layers of unresolved shame? Late one evening, against the soothing backdrop of pouring rain, Nathan finally dialed the unrecognized number, heart pounding as each ring reverberated through the silence. The line clicked, a cool voice came through, breaking the stillness of the night. "Nathan." The tone bore familiarity. "I've been following your recent interest in change-making, but your motives may not be as altruistic as you think. We need to discuss what's really at stake." Nathan's breath caught. What did this person know? The culmination of emotions he had been wrestling with roared back, fear of exposure surfaced anew. Maybe the path to authentic connection would not come without a toll. Yet here he was, standing at a precipice. Could he truly embrace this conversation, or would it drag him further into the shadows of his past? As the rain washed over the pavement outside, Nathan prepared himself for revelations that could either redefine his purpose or unravel every step he had taken. Was he ready for what the voice on the other end had to say? Nathan's mind raced as the voice lingered, sharp and accusing in the silence that enveloped his cramped living room. He could sense the weight of unspoken truths, the type that had submerged him in uncertainty for years. As the initial shock waned, he fought against the instinct to retreat, to silence the call and remain hidden in his self-imposed isolation. "Who are you?" he finally managed to ask, his voice steadier than he felt. "Someone who knows how your story intersects with your ambition," the voice replied, layered with a confidence that unsettled him. "And who knows how much you've tried to bury it." He swallowed hard. An impulse surged within him to hang up, to sever this connection before it unspooled the tangled threads of his life. But curiosity mixed with the raw anxiety of being exposed. Who had the audacity to approach him like this? What were the stakes at play? "You think I'm hiding something?" he queried, skepticism inching into his demeanor. "I think you'd do anything to maintain this facade of altruism," the voice stated, unabashedly exposing his inner turmoil. "You're not alone in wanting to make a difference, Nathan. But I wonder what you're willing to sacrifice. How deeply committed are you to this project, really?" The words hit him with a visceral punch. They forced him to confront the uncomfortable truth nestled within his resolve: he was scared. The promise of connection he yearned for was banked on his ability to connect with himself first. Yet the fear of exposing his vulnerabilities loomed larger than ever. The shadows of his past were destined to surface. "I need to understand more," he stammered, feeling the heat rise to his cheeks. What do you want from me? Just the truth, the voice replied, almost mockingly. Join me at the cafe downtown tomorrow at 10. I'll show you more than just the folly of your ambitions, I'll show you the consequences of denying who you really are. As the line went dead, Nathan felt the atmosphere shift in his apartment, charged with impending revelation. Should he face this person? Root through the rubble of who he used to be to salvage any shred of the man he hoped to become? The thought tangled in his mind, tethering him to a relentless sense of urgency. He paced the room, the rain drumming minuet-like against the window panes, mirroring the turmoil inside him. Could he afford to step into this game? The initiative he was building, was it worth dismantling his carefully constructed barriers? His relationship with Eva loomed in the background, a reminder of the tenuous connection he sought to forge with the students. Did he want to offer them a version of himself that was partially bare, or completely unmasked? The duality of his purpose gnawed at him, creating an invisible tether to the person he feared he might lose. The next morning, against the common sense urging him to remain hidden, Nathan forced himself into a clean set of clothes and made his way to the cafe. With every step, his determination entwined with flecks of doubt. This meeting could imply a reckoning not just with this stranger, but with himself. As he approached the cafe, he noticed a table in the corner, where a figure sat cloaked in shadow. Nathan's heart thundered in his chest, a stark reminder of all the futures that hung in the balance. Was he ready to confront the truths he had buried for far too long? Deep breath in, deep breath out. The moment had arrived. But did he have the courage to embrace it? In the dim lighting of the cafe, the words "the consequences of denying who you really are" echoed in his mind, setting the stage for a confrontation that would leave no stone unturned. Little did he know that the confrontation awaiting him wasn't just with that voice, but with the very essence of his identity. Stepping into the cafe, Nathan felt the weight of the world converge on his shoulders. The decision to confront his past echoed within him like thunder. As he approached the shadowy figure at the corner table, his mind churned with questions and uncertainties. What volatile truths awaited him? Would he crumble under the pressure of unveiling his hidden fears? The figure looked up, revealing a face that struck a chord of familiarity, reminiscent of his own past. Nathan. The voice, smooth yet edged with reproach, was unmistakably condescending. Glad you decided to show up. Who are you and what do you want? Nathan's voice was steadier than he felt, a mask of control to hide the agitation simmering within. I'm someone who knows the truth behind your philanthropic facade, the stranger replied, leaning back in their chair with an air of disinterest. People like you swoop in, throw money at problems, and expect gratitude without understanding the heart-wrenching truths buried underneath. You don't even see how your privilege distorts your view. An uncomfortable silence enveloped the table. Nathan felt defensive, yet, the words cut deeper than he anticipated. Was he just another wealthy individual seeking validation while disguising his ego with benevolence? He wrestled within himself, grappling with who he had become against who he aspired to be. You have no idea what I've done or tried to do since I started this journey, he countered, desperation creeping into his tone. I'm attempting to build real connections, but it's not easy. Connections require more than superficial involvement. They require raw honesty and real sacrifice. The stranger leaned in. You can craft the perfect pitch and draft the ideal vision statement, but if you don't reshape your very approach, you'll merely perpetuate the cycle you claim to fight against. Nathan's heart raced. This was not just a moot discussion, it was a reckoning. Every word weighed on him like a brick, forcing him to confront his choices, his retreat from meaningful engagement, the easy comforts he had relished, and the distance he had placed between himself and those he sought to help. What do you propose? He asked, the earlier defiance melting into sincere curiosity. Engage with your discomfort. Go to the schools, meet the children, and immerse yourself in their struggles, the stranger urged. Talk to the parents, listen to their raw journeys. Only through living their challenges can you change the narrative. As Nathan listened, he saw the shadows of truth illuminating his pathway forward. He had avoided vulnerable spaces. He had hidden behind spreadsheets and funding proposals. He had hesitated to leap into the emotional river, afraid to drown in its depths. "I can't undo my past," Nathan replied, his voice wavering. "But how can I chart a future that isn't swayed by it?" "By refusing to stop at the shoreline," the stranger snapped back, "and instead swim into the currents you've ignored. Build empathy by nurturing understanding. Unveil your vulnerabilities. Then, only then can you forge true connections." The conversation unfurled like an intricate tapestry, revealing the fabric that constituted Nathan's own transformation. The threads of self-doubt began to unravel, allowing space for accountability and introspection. In those moments, he grasped that real change demanded embracing the discomfort of honesty. As their dialogue concluded, Nathan felt a resolute determination ignite within him. The road ahead would not be linear nor unfaltering, but he was finally ready to wade through the complexities without the safe buoy of privilege. He knew that this path meant dismantling the barriers his status had erected around him, not to negate his successes, but to amplify stories yearning to be heard. The stranger leaned back, offering a measured smile. "You're awakening to the reality of your journey, Nathan. Embrace it." Stepping out of the cafe, the air felt electric. Nathan could feel the burgeoning connections unfurling before him. The anxiety that had haunted him felt manageable. He had acknowledged the past, but he was also ready to act, anchored in newfound clarity. In the following weeks, he dedicated himself fully to the mission, gathering community voices, inviting parents to participate, and holding open dialogues with children like Sarah. Each interaction deepened his understanding of their struggles, and the flames of their dreams ignited his own. He transformed the initiative into a living entity, not dictated by his vision but shaped collaboratively. One afternoon, after a week of workshops and dialogues, Nathan stood on the school playground. The sun beamed overhead, illuminating the faces of children bursting with ideas. There, in that moment, he embraced the truth. He could weave his story alongside theirs, acknowledging past biases, but also working to craft a shared narrative that celebrated their resilience and innovative spirits. Nathan had come full circle, reaching a state of profound satisfaction, a realization that these relationships transformed him into not just a benefactor or an ally, but a true participant in their collective journey toward a better future. Leaving the school that day, Nathan felt united with his purpose, a purpose no longer defined by wealth, but by the strength of relationships built on authenticity and accountability. He smiled inwardly, knowing that with each passing day, he was dismantling the very walls that had once separated him from the dreams of others. This awakening was not mere success, it was a tangible personal growth that irrevocably shaped his identity. Nathan was ready to continue engaging with the world around him, no longer as a distant observer, but as a determined participant. To all viewers captivated by this journey, the time has come to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support feeds the fire of storytelling. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about Nathan's transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this powerful conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Join us as we embark on more tales of personal growth and transformation.